You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet. Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
All right, Miami! Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Tuesday, March the 12th. I am your host, Mike Oliva, flying solo today as we have more news to talk about in the world of the Miami Dolphins. And it's day 2 of the legal tampering period. It's really day 2 of free agency. The Dolphins lost another player, but they signed a couple players as well, and we're going to break that down and talk about some of the players they've added. Literally, they signed one just before I was about to start to record, so I had to stop, restart the show, and get the information on the signing they have. And this is about 7:15 Eastern time as I record this, and they just signed Jordan Poyer, so we're going to talk about that as well. But before we get to any of that, as always, a big shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins Fan Facebook page run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are a part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins Fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Audible, Podbean, Podchaser, we are on every podcasting platform. So wherever you're listening, subscribe, hit the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash the like button, because we're going to have shows each and every day of the week. We're going to have multiple shows each day. Right now it's Tuesday. You have a show right here with myself. Then you have Stephen Daniels and Zach Krantz. Stephen Daniels and Josh Moser from WSVN. Zach Krantz from WQAM. And also Manny and Marissa are having a show. There's 4 shows on Tuesday alone. On Wednesday, we got a couple more shows. Josh and Aaron, same old Dolphin show. Myself, Ian, and Tom are going to have a show. We're going to have shows because the signings aren't going to stop. There's going to be a lot of news all week. Guys coming, guys going. And you're not going to want to miss any of the shows as we have all the news and rumors to break down. Okay, let's start off today's show on Tuesday with one more Miami Dolphins player who's no longer with us and is left. Defensive tackle Raekwon Davis has signed with the Indianapolis Colts. 2 years, $14 million. Not a shock here because the Miami Dolphins are just sort of rebuilding that side of the ball on defense. Raekwon, I'm guessing it's not the money here is why they could have matched this type of deal. Just probably not a fit for what Anthony Weaver wants to do. Raekwon, it's just another hole after they've lost Christian Wilkins, after they've lost now Raekwon Davis. The front 4, we know Chubb and Jaylen Phillips out for the first part of next year. Andrew Van Ginkel's gone. Jerome Baker's gone. Raekwon has started 48 of 63 games since being in Miami. Second round pick in 2020. 2 career sacks. He had a half sack this past year. Started 7 of 17 games in 2023 for Miami. This one, not a huge loss as he can be replaced. I'm not saying he's a superstar by any means. He's a good player. But what the Dolphins need after losing Wilkins and Raekwon, they need some guys who can eat up blocks in the middle of the defense. They need some size. They need probably a nose tackle. They need at least 2 defensive tackles to, stop the run. They got no big bodies on the line anymore aside from Zach Sealer, and obviously that's not enough. I know they signed a couple lower-level players a week ago, but guys who really haven't played much in the NFL and are more guys you're hoping can maybe find their way to a practice squad or maybe be like the last guy on the roster. They need some serious beef, some meat in the middle of that defensive line, especially after the loss of Raekwon Davis. Now let's talk about the 2 players Miami signed today. This is much more positive news. The Dolphins this morning signed Shaq Barrett, edge rusher from Tampa Bay. Shaq Barrett has been in the league since 2015. Started off with the Denver Broncos, and in 2019 went to Tampa Bay. 1 year, $9 million. And why this is big is for the reasons I just mentioned. The Dolphins right now pass rush heading into the year is non-existent. Bradley Chubb, Jaylen Phillips, we know, going to miss most, if not at least half of next year, maybe more. And Andrew Van Ginkel and his 6 sacks are gone. Shaq Barrett kind of fills that role that Melvin Ingram had, that Emmanuel Ogbah had, a backup edge rusher. But we know to start the season, he's going to have to start and play a lot of snaps. But as someone at his age, and he is right now, what is he? I believe he's 31 years old. He'll be 32 in November. Someone you don't want to be a full-time starter, clearly. Last year, he did start all 16 games. He had 4.5 sacks. In 2022, he only started 8 games. I believe he tore his Achilles. In those 8 games, he had 3 sacks. 2019 was his big year where he led the NFL with 19.5 sacks. That's 2019. He is not that same player no more. Like I said, he'll be 32 in November. The good news here with the Shaq signing is because he was cut by Tampa Bay, this does not hurt Miami in the compensatory pick formula, meaning they lost Wilkins, they lost Hunt, they lost Raekwon. These are guys picked in rounds 1 or 2. There's compensatory picks coming back for them. And they also lost Brandon Jones, who went in round 3. They lost guys who are gone in rounds 1, 2, and 3, but they haven't signed any big money free agents per se that's going to, stop them from not getting compensatory picks last year. The one they would have got probably for Andrew Van Ginkel is probably offset by the signing of Jordan Brooks, as that's very similar money. That's okay because he's a solid player and they needed him. But the big compensatory picks, the ones that are going to come around 3 for Wilkins and Hunt, not affected yet. And the one here for Brandon Jones, probably not affected yet either. So Shaq Barrett, I think they have to sign at least another edge rusher like this, and they probably will take one in the draft rounds 1 or 2, I would guess, just because, again, having to navigate no Chubb, no Jaylen Phillips for half most of the year, they need more than just one guy, clearly. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see another vet, over the age of 30, probably 1-year deal around $8-9 million, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a little bit less, all depending who they are, signed here in the next few days, next few weeks. I can see another one coming like this to sort of hold the fort down until later in the year when Chubb and Phillips can return to the field. Then late Tuesday night, the Dolphins signed safety Jordan Poyer, who Miami was linked to last year, but he decided to re-sign with the Bills, and the Dolphins went with Deshaun Elliott. So it didn't work out last year. He's from South Florida. He is BFFs with Tua Tagovailoa. They were very close friends. He has played with the Eagles, Browns, and the Bills since being in the NFL. He will be 33 in April. So again, this is an older guy. Same thing with Shaq Barrett. Same thing here with Jordan Poyer. These are probably the last teams they're going to play with. They're in that age where it's like close to retirement. I'm just going to sign a 1-year deal, see where this goes, year to year type of deal. So, but here's the deal. Jordan Poyer, this guy doesn't miss many games. Now, he's been in the league since 2013, and those early years he kind of bounced around with Cleveland and the Eagles and stuff. Start 2017, now you're going back last 7 years, which really all I care about. He started 15 games in 2017 out of 15 that he played in. 2018, 16 of 16. 2019, 16 of 16. 2020, 16 of 16. 2021, 16 of 16. 2022, he did have a bunch of injuries, even with a bunch of injuries. Not just one injury. He had multiple, smaller, nagging injuries. He started 12 of 12. And then last year, started 16 of 16, so he did miss a game. But, this guy's on the field almost all the time. Maybe he misses one game a year, which in this league where they keep adding games and how violent it is, that's okay. This guy is a warrior. He's a beast. He's always on the field. And he's also a tackle machine. Go back to 2017, 95 tackles. 2018, 100. 2019, 107. 2020, 124. 2021, 93. 2022, where he missed those games, only 63. Last year, 100. This guy's at or near 100 tackles every season. He had 1 sack last year. He's got 12 sacks over the years as a safety. And he has 24 career interceptions, although he did not have an interception last year. In 2021, he had 5. And 2022, in only 12 games, he had 4. So this guy finds the ball, will get interceptions. He stays on the field. He's a tackle machine. Yes, he's a little older. Yes, he's probably going to start to be a little slower. But he's a veteran safety who you put out there with Holland and Jalen Ramsey in the corner at one corner. And that secondary's got a lot of experience and a lot of talent with Jordan Poyer. He's probably a replacement for Brandon Jones because he's the same type of... Well, he's not the same type of player, but he does replace what they lost at safety with Brandon Jones. We'll see about Elliott. Once again, Anthony Weaver's moving on from a lot of these guys here, and he's, he has a vision for what he wants to do on that side of the ball, and clearly it did not include Eder Van Ginkel. It did not include Xavier Howard. It did not include Jerome Baker. Wilkins, it probably did. It just cost too much money, which they didn't have. So, and then today it did not include Raekwon Davis. So I don't know if Elliott will be back. We'll see. But that side of the ball is being reshaped, and Jordan Poyer is going to be a new piece in the secondary. We'll see if they are going to re-sign Deshaun Elliott. I was a big fan of Elliott. It's just that I don't know if he's a piece that's going to fit in what Anthony Weaver wants to do. Only Anthony Weaver knows that, and I'm sure he is talking to Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel, and he will let them know if he's a piece or not. And if it is, I'm sure they'll try to keep him. If not, it is what it is. And they also re-signed Elijah Campbell as well, who's another depth piece in the secondary. So Dolphins secondary starting to take shape. They do need a veteran corner. They do need a veteran corner, and we'll see what they do there. I don't know if they'll do something soon, or if that's going to be something that goes like post June 1st or into the next few weeks, that second wave of free agency. But Shaq Barrett and Jordan Poyer signed today. They're both going to have roles on this team in 2024. Shaq Barrett really the first half of the year filling in and being their primary pass rusher with no Jalen Phillips, no Bradley Chubb, and Jordan Poyer stepping in at safety next to Javon Holland and bringing some stability to that secondary as we wait to see what they do at the other corner spot to replace Xavier Howard. We all hope it's Cam Smith, but they got to bring in a vet because we don't know if Cam Smith is really any good at this point. There's an unconfirmed report out there, and I'm trying to track down more information on it. Once I get more information, I will let you know. But I want to just sort of mention it real quick. So someone on social media, and once again, it's on social media, so you never really know, said Louis Riddick on ESPN, one of the ESPN platforms, said Connor Williams, his ACL tear was so bad he might have to retire. That's from Louis Riddick, supposedly. I have yet to see the video of Louis Riddick saying this or hear any audio of Louis Riddick saying this. I'm trying to track it down. So until then, take it with a grain of salt. It might be someone on Twitter being a troll, having some fun, or or I don't think it's the case because the guy doesn't seem like that type of person on Twitter. It might be someone who heard it and is sharing it. I don't know yet. So hopefully by tomorrow night's show, I will have more information on that and try to get confirmation. Because here's the deal. I know we signed a center in Aaron Brewer on Monday, or he will sign officially Wednesday, but he's agreed to terms. And that's great. But the Dolphins also lost Robert Hunt. We also know Liam Eichenberg's not a starting center. We need multiple interior offensive linemen. And even if Connor was going to miss the first, 6 to 8 weeks of the year with the ACL injury, signing him at some point this offseason to know he's going to be back and we're going to have him for another year or 2 or 3 because he was an elite block. He did have some issues snapping the ball. We get that. But when it came to just pure blocking, pass blocking and run blocking, he was not good, not great, elite. And the hope was, for 2024, it might stink not having him there from the start, but if you can get him at a reasonable price, have him locked in for 2 or 3 years, and then when he's ready to play this year in October maybe or sometime in November, it's going to make your offensive line that much better. That would be great. But if he, per the report, which I have yet to confirm, he might have to retire because the ACL injury is not just a typical ACL injury. It's an extreme one that's so bad that it might force him into retirement. That would stink. Not only for him because he won't be able to play football anymore, and I'm sure that's just heartbreaking to him because that's how he earns a living and how he supports his family and all that good stuff. But for the Dolphins, that was a piece I was thinking on. You know what? I know 2024 is going to be a little tough start of the year. Obviously, Chubb Phillips not there. Connor Williams, if you get him at a reasonable price, he can come back. Because when he comes back middle of the year, that's like adding a key piece at the trade deadline to bolster your offensive line, which we know that the offensive line needs to be more physical, needs to be stronger. So, yeah, I'll try to find that out by tomorrow on Wednesday's show if this is true or not. Let's hope it's not. Honestly, I hope it is someone on Twitter just being a jerk. But unfortunately, I don't know if that's the case. And I'll try to track down the audio or video of Riddick and what he said. The one thing I did want to mention of one player who signed with another team was Derrick Henry. I know there was some rumblings that Henry to Miami. He wanted to go to Miami. There's kind of some rumblings under the last few weeks that it could happen. He signed with the Ravens on a 2-year deal, and God bless him. But to me, this is why the Ravens are, winning the AFC North and winning playoff games, and was in the AFC Championship game this past year, and they've won Super Bowls, and not, in the past handful or the past 10 years at least, right? It's been about 10 since they've won one. They just get it. They nail their draft picks almost all the time, and they're looking at, they lost to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game this year. How do we beat the Chiefs? Well, we got to keep Pat Mahomes on the sideline. The most physical team in the AFC just got the most physical running back in the NFL, and they doubled down on physicality. And their plan next year, I'm sure, when they face the Chiefs in a regular season game or a playoff game, is we're going to run it down their throat. We're going to run it down their throat again, and Pat Mahomes isn't going to see the field. So kudos to the Ravens for a great signing. This was the type of signing I wanted Miami to have, not because I don't like Mostert and Achane, just because Mostert, past 2 years, missed a playoff game versus the Bills, hurt. Last year, missed week 17, week 18, hurt. He's not there late in the year. You just can't depend on him. Achane last year got hurt in training camp, got hurt after week 3 or 4, got hurt again middle of the year. I mean, he was hurt and missed games at 3 different points last year in the season. And can you depend on him for a full season? Because he's a smaller guy. These are great players. But again, we saw the Dolphins' weakness late in the year at Baltimore. Playoff game versus Kansas City. You're on the road. It's cold. It's windy. You can't throw it 30, 40 times a game. You got to be able to be more physical than your opponent. And Mostert and Achane aren't guys who are going to be more physical in that type of weather. So that's why I was hoping for someone like Henry. Now, there's other guys out there. And don't tell me Chris Brooks. Look, I like Chris Brooks, but he's an undrafted rookie running back. He's a nice player, but he is not someone who late in the year or in a playoff game, you're going to turn and hand off to Chris Brooks 20, 22 times and lead you home to a win. He's just not. He's a nice guy to have on the team, don't get me wrong. And neither is Jeff Wilson, who's probably going to be cut here soon just to open up $3 million on the cap. He's not that guy either. I was looking for more of a proven big-name guy, not even big name, just more of a proven veteran guy to be that physical back that we need in those moments. Because if the Dolphins want to win playoff games, they want to make a run toward the Super Bowl this year or beyond, they need to add that piece of physicality that they don't have. And as good as Mostert is, as good as Achane is, they're not the physical running backs, and that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Even someone like the Chiefs, they run the ball with physicality with Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco will, put his head down, run between tackles, and break tackle. He is a physical. He runs angry. And we don't have that guy in Miami. And, there's still time to get one. There's guys out there. And there's always the draft, which I don't think Chris Grier is going to take a running back in the draft 2 years in a row. Maybe I'm wrong. But, yeah, I just want to talk about the Henry one because I know some people say don't need a running back. Well, kind of think you do. If you at least want to win playoff games and you at least want to win games late in the year on the road, I kind of think we do need a running back because the guys we have are meant for September, October football and fancy football inside domes and at Hard Rock Stadium. But when push comes to shove and you got to, win a physical game on the road in weather conditions, they're not the guys who are going to get that job done. Last topic here as I wrap up. And it's something I've seen on social. Look, I know the Dolphins had a rough Monday. Lose Christian Wilkins, lose Andrew Van Ginkel, lose Robert Hunt. And they signed a couple guys. And nice pieces. But the guys they signed are not as good as the guys they lost. And I've seen some people on Twitter try to twist themselves into pretzels and spin this at Chris Grier revamped the linebacker room and we are great at linebacker now. No, we're not. We're not great. We have new faces at the line. At linebacker today, as I record this Tuesday, March 12th. We're not better. And, I know fans don't like to hear negative things about their team. I get it. But we have to be honest here. Miami lost Andrew Van Ginkel, a guy who's entering the prime of his career, had 6 sacks last year and was at times unblockable in games. They lost Jerome Baker, who's a very, very good player. Been in Miami since day one. Veteran NFL linebacker, played with his heart on his sleeve, left it all on the field, an above-average linebacker, and they replaced them with Anthony Walker, who's a depth piece. Anthony Walker's not a starter. He's had 4.5 sacks in 7 seasons. Andrew Van Ginkel had 6 in how many games last year? I mean, he had 6 in the season, and I don't even think he played every game, Andrew Van Ginkel. He did play every game. He started 11, but he had 6 last year. Anthony Walker is just a backup linebacker. He's there because Channing Tindall stinks. Let's just call it what it is. Yeah, if Channing Tindall doesn't stink, Anthony Walker's not in his team. That's it. Jordan Brooks is a nice player. Do not get me wrong. But Jordan Brooks has been in the NFL for a while. He's not Andrew Van Ginkel, and at best, he is someone who's equal to Jerome Baker. He's probably not even as good as Jerome Baker, but they're close. I mean, they're close. So, I know a lot of fans of Dolphins just want to hear any good news. Jordan Brooks has 6.5 sacks in 4 years. Again, Andrew Van Ginkel's got 6 sacks last year alone. Jordan Brooks has 6 total, 6 in his whole career. 6.5 total in his whole career. So the Dolphins have new faces at linebacker. They haven't upgraded the linebacker room. Now, Shaq Barrett, you have to throw him in the mix because he's technically an outside linebacker. And great, because we lost Ogba and stuff like that. Shaq Barrett's, he's a little bit older. He's going to be 32 here in November. And he's been in the NFL since 2015. He's going into the last year or two of his career. He's a rotational pass rusher, and he's a good one at that. He's good. He had 4.5 sacks last year, 3 the year before in 8 games. He will get to the quarterback a handful of times. But to say we revamped the linebacker room, we've transformed the linebacker room, and we have upgraded at linebacker is just false. We haven't. And I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer here, but honestly, the 3 guys Miami lost on Monday, and Wilkins Hunt and Andrew Van Ginkel, we are going to replace them with lesser talented players. And that's fine. It is what it is. Miami's, they're up against it with the cap. It's not a shock. It's not even a knock on Grier. He's got to do what he's got to do. They have to work on here being financially prudent, work on a little bit of a budget this year. And, I'm happy Miami signed Brooks. I'm happy that Miami signed Walker as a depth piece. I love the signing of Jordan Poyer. I like the signing of Shaq Barrett. I like the signings. Don't get me wrong. These are good role players on short 1 or 2 year deals for the most part who, are going to fill in and fill roles, and they will be good. But let's not also try to rewrite history here and saying we have upgraded the roster in any way. We haven't. And hopefully, and the smart thing is they've added all these guys and they haven't hurt the compensatory pick formula. So a year from now, we're going to be having a much more fun conversation, I would say, in that we're going to go into 2025 with roughly $70 million salary cap space as we sort of, that's sort of out there as a projected number, which how you figure the cap will go up and what Miami has coming off the cap and obviously the restructure for Tua, that it's going to be around $70 million. Now, some of that $70 million has to go to pay Holland and get extensions done with Waddle and Jaylen Phillips, hopefully. But they're going to have about $70 million. So even if they, allocate a chunk of money for those 3 contracts, they're going to be players here on the first day for bigger name guys than what we've seen this year. And also, if they don't go nuts here in the next week or in the next month, really, and blow up the compensatory pick thing, they're going to have a pick in round 2 next year. They're going to have pick in round 1, round 2, hopefully 2 or 3 picks in round 3, and either 2 picks in round 4, or, they're going to have, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to have like 6, 7 picks in the first 3 rounds or 4 rounds. And that's great because they're going to be able to get, a lot of very good players on rookie contracts in 2025 to replenish this roster with some youth, with some speed, and to fill holes that they might not be able to fill this year. Christian Wilkins is gone. They might have to sign 2 guys on a 1-year deal for 2024 to replace him, but maybe next year in the draft with so many picks, they get their true long-term answer to replace him. Same thing with Raekwon. This year, they got picks in rounds 1 or 2 and 2. They're going to get two pieces. Maybe one's a wide receiver, maybe one's an edge rusher. But next year, they're going to be able to get long-term answers at some of these spots that they can't address this year. So I just want to, I like the signings they've done. But as fans, let's not also lie to ourselves and saying that this team is better today with guys like Brooks and Walker and Poyer and Shaq Barrett than it was when we had Wilkins, Hunt, and Andrew Van Ginkel. Because it's not. It's just not better. But we'll see what they do here in the next few days. We'll have shows. We're going to have so many shows up on the podcast. So go to wherever you listen to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. If it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, Podbean, Podchaser, wherever. Subscribe, find all the shows. Like I said, we have a show with Josh Moser from WSVN that'll be dropping Tuesday night. We have a show with Zach Krantz that's going to drop Tuesday night from WQAM. These are the guys who are in South Florida, work at one at a major radio outlet and one at a major television outlet, breaking stuff down. We got Marissa and Manny, the Bearded Fanatic. They're going to have a show. And there's just so much content when it comes to the Dolphins. And when news breaks, we're going to have it like we did with Shaq Barrett, Jordan Poyer, and all the news yesterday with the show I did on Monday with Jason Sarney. So everyone, thank you for listening. Have a great Tuesday night. Check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com. Don't forget to go there. We got so many articles up. It's crazy. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at DolphinsTalk. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.
Thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. Be sure to visit DolphinsTalk.com every day for all of your latest Miami Dolphins news.